Well, there it is. We no longer have any front suspension or front crossmember. I'm out of breath. So, luckily, with a torch, makes pretty quick work of it. I still have about 30 minutes in cutting it all apart. There's a couple parts that are welded in, where the crossmember is welded to the frame rail, and I try to hit them with the torch and clean them up so that it all fell out easier. So there was a bracket in here where your steering box originally mounted, and then this is all your crossmember. The Crown Vic is going to fit in there. I can't remember which one of those two holes. I have to go back and look. I have it written down. One of those two holes, I can't remember if it's a forward or back one. We got to make them. Can't remember even how big you got to make them. But anyway, we got to enlarge them holes. And these plastic pins right there are our lineup pins. So I'll go back and I'll look through my paperwork that I wrote down and see where those lineup pins go, enlarge those holes, and then basically this thing just fits up in there. We got a mark for where these holes get drilled, box the frame in, weld the boxes in, bolt this thing in, and you're done. Now it sounds kind of easy. The hardest part is actually getting all that out. Now this is an F350, so that stuff's a lot heavier, but the frame rails are the same dimension. Another thing too you want to do, which I'm actually okay, but when you cut all that out, the frame rails are just hanging out there in the wind. There's nothing to support the frame rails. But this being a tow truck, this front bumper is welded to the end of the frame rails. So that keeps my frame in line. My frame didn't move at all when I cut it. So that's a plus. So our next step is we got to go in, clean all the boogers off, clean all this up both sides. I got to go through the cab because all the parts to the truck are inside the cab, and somewhere's in there is the boxes that go inside the frame to box the frame in. Now I bought boxes that are pre-made just to make life easier, and I bought lower rear control arms from Outcast Customs, which are really nice. When I get to that part, we'll show that part. But I'm not going to bother with you guys with the rest of the cleanup stuff. That's going to be pretty much all I'm going to do with this project for today, just because I'm wore out. We did a lot around here yesterday and cleaning up, got this truck turned around. I'm actually working on it in the carport. I didn't want to tie the shop up with it because I know how I am. I get hot and heavy on something, and then something else goes on and I get sidetracked. After all, I've been fooling with this truck for 2 years. Something else we did today is we put some fuel and a battery in the big boy, and we got her fired up today. Hasn't run in about 4.5 years. Literally just put fuel to it, tapped on the carburetor to make sure the floats weren't stuck, and it's alive. Let's see if it'll fire right up. I haven't had it running for about 2 hours. Give a little love tap. So it's running. Right now, I just temporarily got a fuel pump, a gallon jug rigged up under the hood, just so I can get it running, so I can move it around. I've talked about before on the channel, I'm put a cell in the bed with a pump, and I've actually got a, this has only got a 600 vacuum secondary carb. Originally, I did have a 650 double pump dual feed, but the tank that's in this truck was getting water in it, and I ruined the carburetor because I let watery fuel get in it, and I let it sit, so I ruined it. So about 4.5 years ago, I slapped this 600 on there just to get it running. I haven't had the truck back out in the mud, but I plan on it. So right now, we're just running off of this, and that's all it is. It's a 460 with a cam. It's a 9-to-1 motor. It's got a little bit of head work done to it, but this motor is going to come out of this truck. Now, mind you, it's not all pretty because it's a mud truck. I've buried that truck to the bottom of them doors. It's on 44s, 513 gears, locked up front and rear, C6 trans. When this thing gets hot, it doesn't have much oil pressure. It still runs really good, so I don't want to ruin the motor. I have a fresh motor that I put together back at the old shop. It's a flat top, 60 over. It's got a little bit more shit done to it. I'd like to put that motor in there this summer. And I'd like to take it out and get a couple hits on it. My buddy's got a farm up in Townsend. He said we're more than welcome to come up. He floods a section of the field, pulls the gates, and lets us go play out in the field. Hey, free place to wheel that's legal, I'm all down for it. They've actually already been out a couple of times. It's kind of what's got me motivated to do something with the truck. I've got a car trailer now, so I got a way to haul the truck. It doesn't really fit on the rollback. It's too wide, and the rails on my rollback are not removable. So it sits up on the rails. You got to put a bunch of blocks of wood under it. It just looks really hokey, and it's really sketchy to haul it on this truck. These rails are not removable. There's a 16-foot car trailer over there that I bought, and I've hauled this thing many a times on a 16-foot car trailer. Looks real big, looks real heavy, but it's really not that heavy. At the end of the day, it's just a, it is a real F350. It's got an F-150 body on it. That truck's actually a 1980, and I put a 90 body on it 20 years ago. I've owned this truck a long time. So we'll do some more content on that. I know a lot of guys have been waiting and really itching to see the wrecker. So that's what I've been really concentrating on today, was I wanted to get it cut apart so I can test fit the front end and start hammering away at this thing. Like I said, once I box this frame with the boxes, I got to dig them out. I'm gonna dig them out here in a few minutes. Once I box the frame and drill the holes for the bolts, this thing just bolts right in. And then I'm going to rebuild the whole front end. I have all new struts. I bought new struts, rotors, calipers, lower ball joint, tie rods. I'm going to clean the rack up, hope for the best with the rack, and we'll see where it goes. This did come out of a running driving car. It's just been sitting around. Oh, I even got I got new upper control arms because the bushings are all shot. So I just bought whole control arms. Now, you guys heard me talk about before. I own all these projects. Nobody, I'm not sponsored by nobody. This stuff is all paid for out of my pocket. Every last piece of junk around here, I own, I paid for. I don't have a note on it. I don't have a bank loan on nothing. Everything here at this place is paid for. So, kind of is why it takes a little long to do a couple projects. What I do is I buy a bunch of parts, little at a time. Rock Auto is where I buy a lot of stuff from. It's all name brand stuff. In fact, the motor that's going in this truck, I just bought the last batch of stuff for it from Rock Auto. This truck's going to get a 351 Cleveland. I know I've talked about in the past I was going to put a 7.3 in it, but I decided not to. I decided to put a 351 Cleveland in it. The main reason is the transmission in this truck, the PTO already bolts up. The dry shaft is already right size. If I go and do the diesel with the 5-speed swap, I got to get a dry shaft cut, which isn't a big deal. I want the boom, the wrecker boom, and the PTO and all the work. I got to buy a PTO. I don't have any used ZF 5-speed ones laying around. I'm looking at $1,000 for a PTO. There's just a lot of other things that got to go with the project as well. Where if I use a Cleveland, which is already paid for, which I bought for another project that's abandoned, I already have everything to put the motor in this truck. I just had to buy some motor mounts. I bought them from, again, a company called Outcast. He makes motor mounts that directly bolt into that subframe, put the motor in the factory spot where it originally was with the subframe in. So I bought his motor mounts. They were $300. I already have a small block bell housing and everything, so I'll be able to just pretty much put it in. Now I ended up going through the 351. I tore it apart. It was a running motor out of a low mileage running motor out of another car. I bought it, but when I got the valve covers off, it was all sludged up. So I decided to just tear the whole motor apart and go through it. It's a very low mileage motor. It's not abused. It looks really good inside. I'm gonna put a camshaft in it. I'm gonna run through the heads, go through the valves and stuff, and just run through it real fast. Nothing. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not doing any high-end build. I got an ant crawling on me. We're not doing a high-end build. We're just kind of keeping it basic. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tow truck. It's not a race car. I want this thing to motor down the road. I want you to be able to drive it. I'm probably going to change the gears in it because it has 410s in it. I'm going to try to find something a little more highway friendly. That way we can drive this thing for, you know, long distance. So we'll wrap the video up for now. Tomorrow being Memorial Day, I'll probably fit this front end in there and do another video and see where we're at. Holla at your boy.